At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Stan, welcome back again.
Hey, thank you for having me, Doctor.
Hey, I'm really excited. I mean, we just chatted a while ago and we got off on, I wouldn't say a tangent, but something that was really important. And by the time we finished in our 45 minutes, we hadn't even talked about your book. We hadn't even talked about your system, The Way of Excellence. And so today, that's what I really want to talk about. But for the audience who may not hear the first one, but hear this one, would you just kind of brief the audience again about who you are, what motivated you to write the book, and what's the name of the book?
Okay, to give it to you in a nutshell, I'm Stanley Bronstein. I'm an attorney. I'm a CPA. Some parts of the world, they call them chartered accountants. We call them certified public accountants. Same thing. But along the way, I had a transformational experience, and that has led me into the arena of life coaching and writing of several books. My transformational experience can best be summed up in a picture.
Yeah, lost a lot of weight.
I used to weigh 367 pounds and have a 58-inch waist. And now I'm about 145 pounds and I have a 31-inch waist. No drugs, no surgeries. Just learning to eat properly, getting my head on straight, and walking, a lot of walking. So the experience of losing that much weight, keeping it off, going from a person who can only walk 2 or 3 blocks to a person who literally walks 10 to 15 miles every day. For those of you with kilometers, that's probably 15 to 20 kilometers every day. It has taught me 2 things. First one is I'm more powerful than I ever imagined. Way more powerful. I still haven't found my limits yet. I'm in year 18 of my journey, and I haven't found my limits yet. Wow. And the second thing it's taught me is that if I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. So if you're listening, pay attention. You are more powerful than you ever imagined. And when you start to believe that, it leads you to ask yourself some questions. In my case, it led me to ask the question, if I could do what I've already done, what else is out there waiting for me to do that I haven't done yet that I should do? So the answer to that was, I should take what I've learned from my experience and turn it into a system that other people can use so that they can transform their lives as well. In my case, it took me 49 and a half years, I was almost 50, to wake up and change my life in an instant. With the system I put together, it helps people change their life in an instant without waiting 49 and a half years to do it. Plain and simple. I mean, that's the goal. So one of the things I learned out of the experience was to stop being a perfectionist. I was a 367-pound perfectionist, if that makes any sense. A little bit of hypocrisy and a little bit of irony in that. Perfectionism, first of all, no one is perfect. There have never been any perfect people. There are not going to be any perfect people. I'm not going to be the first. Trust me, I've tried. And you're not going to be the first either. I can promise you that. Instead of reaching for perfection, you learn that good enough is good enough. Make good enough your floor. If you can get to where everything's good enough, that's a great place to be. Now, one of the beauties of being good enough is that there is usually room to improve. You can always improve. You can always get better. There's always a level higher. There's always a level deeper. There's always a level farther. So, so that's what excellence is. Excellence is going for constant and never-ending improvement. Just
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead.
So you wrote the book that I want you
I've
to.
written many, many books.
Yeah, I know you have. I want you to speak a little bit about the book, though, that you wrote, The Way of You. And let's talk about what that is literally talking about.
Okay. The way of you breaks your journey down into three phases, your individual journey down into three phases. The first phase is finding you. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you want to be? What has gotten you to this point? Um, so many people go through life never figuring out who they are. Um, for me, I always had a pretty good idea of who I was, but but all along, inside my huge frame, there was a different me trapped in there screaming to get out. Um, like I said, it took me 49 and a half years. Specifically, I woke up 4 months before my 50th birthday and I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep doing what I'm doing, which was basically eating myself to death. I said, I'm going to be dead in 5 years, and I didn't want to be dead. So I started making some changes. I think at that moment, that was when I found myself. Yeah, I realized who I was, who I wanted to be, who I could be. See, up until that point, I'd been living a life on autopilot, largely.
Yeah.
Just one day after another, after another, after another, after another. At that point, I decided who I wanted to be, what I needed to do to get there. And then I started making conscious decisions, conscious changes to get there.
So let me ask you a question from a spiritual aspect, and we don't have to get into that too much, but a lot of people talk about the fact that within each of us is that divine self, who you really are. Did that come into play at all for you, or was it just more strictly the way you're talking about it?
The way I'm talking about it. I mean,
Okay.
don't get me wrong. I'm very much a spiritual being, but I didn't think in terms of divinity.
Okay.
I thought more in terms of I can be so much more than I am, and I'm wasting my potential. Time to stop doing that. That's the terms of what I was thinking of.
Okay, so finding yourself is your first step, and then with the book, becoming. And is the becoming where you get into your whole way of excellence, step by step of how
Well,
that works?
yeah, yes. Becoming, first of all, the way of excellence is in the whole thing,
Uh-huh.
which I'll get to the system. It's the whole thing.
Okay.
It's a way of thinking, it's a way of living, it's a way of being. But the second phase was once I figured out where I'm at and where I want to be, there's the process of becoming who I want to be. And that was a slow, gradual process, did not happen overnight. There were peaks and valleys, ups and downs, lefts and rights, forwards, backwards, zigs and zags. It was not a straight line experience. But the main thing was I got started and I never stopped. I kept going, 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 and going. And that's a major part of the system. We go to talk about it.
Well, and,
So,
and I think it's important that you bring up the point that it doesn't happen overnight. That
no,
there has to be a great deal of, number one, I guess, commitment, but number two, patience, patience with self and understanding that, yes, we're not perfect and we're not able
ex-
to just get it
except,
done.
except I want to reword what you just said.
Okay.
There doesn't have to be a damn thing. There gets to be a great deal of patience.
Okay.
You get to do it. It is your privilege. And I'm going to share a story I'll go ahead and share it right now that tells you where I learned that, who taught me that. 2 years before I started my journey, there was a woman I met in 2007. Her name was Peggy Chun. She lived in Honolulu, Hawaii. She was an artist. She had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. She was completely bedridden, on a ventilator, could not move, could not speak at the time I met her. The only way she could communicate was trained people would hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements and she could spell out words. I was interviewing her for a book I was writing. I was going around the United States interviewing 50 people who had interesting stories for a book, and she was like the second person I think I talked to. And when I saw her in that vegetative state, the thought that entered my mind was, if I ever get like that, please put a pillow over my head and take me out. That was what I thought. But that was not Peggy's attitude. Peggy's attitude was, my grandkids are coming over later today. They're gonna drive me out to the park. It's a beautiful sunny day. We're gonna go paint. It's gonna be a fantastic day. What? You're gonna be driving around the country and you're gonna be interviewing these 50 fantastic people? Tell me all about them. I want to know everything about them. I wish I could go with you.
Wow.
So this woman, who was in a state where I would have probably wanted to kill myself if I could have, had more joy for life than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. So it didn't happen overnight, but what I've learned out of the experience of meeting her is that I'm alive. I have the ability to do these things. She didn't. You know, that's why I no longer say I don't have to do a damn thing. I get to do everything. I stopped saying have to, and I started saying get to. Okay. When you say get to, it changes your perspective, and it makes the whole process that I'm going to describe to you much easier, much more powerful. Then the third phase, let me finish through the way of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The third phase, once you've become you, and that takes many years. Like I said, I'm in year 18 of my process. I think in many ways I've become myself. Now I'm optimizing myself. I call that phase, I journal on it all the time. It's called Optimizing Stanley. That's the project I'm on right now, Optimizing Stanley, myself. So the third phase is optimizing you. You've found who you are. You've largely become yourself. Now let's keep making it better and better and better and better and better and better. And that's one of the reasons I do all the things I do. People, when they look at my schedule and they see the things I do, a lot of times they think I'm nuts. I mean, I've created a lifestyle for myself where I walk 10 to 15 miles every day. That's 15 to 20 kilometers every day.
Wow.
You know, why do I do that? Because I can. I haven't found my limits yet. I'm still looking for them. And I mean, I had my physical 3-4 weeks ago. I had my blood work done. I'll put my blood work numbers up against any 30-year-old. And I'm 66. I feel better than I did when I was 30. I wasn't in this good a shape when I was 30. I couldn't do what I do now when I was 30. You know, am I getting older? In many ways, yes, am I getting younger? In many ways, I think I am. Don't know if I am, but I think I am. I feel like I am. And I think a lot of it is mindset. You know, it's between our ears. So finding yourself, becoming yourself, optimizing yourself. That's pretty much what the book is all about. It gives you a process to help you do that. And the book is based upon my system which is called the way of excellence. Because what happened was, as I said, I've been a systems thinker. My whole career has been business and taking complicated things and making them simple. So I said, how do I take the complicated game of life and make it simple? I still haven't totally figured out the meaning of life, but I think I've figured out a lot about life, if that makes sense. And the conclusion I came to is the goal is not perfection. The goal is excellence. Like I said before, perfection, you're never going to get there, so don't even try. Just start from a base floor of good enough, and then work on getting better, better, and better, and better.
Well, what's interesting as you use the word perfection, and I go back to the biblical aspect of this because I don't know how we ended up in English defining perfection as flawless. And what's interesting is as you get into, this whole concept of be therefore perfect, when you get into the actual Hebrew meaning and Greek meaning, it means complete. Be complete. And so that's what you're talking about. And we even have that definition of perfection as flawlessness, as English speaking people. I know that it's different depending on what country you're in and the language you speak, but I love the fact that you're talking about the fact that it's a way of excellence. It's a way of literally optimizing yourself and continuing on that path to optimize and become even more complete and more complete.
Didn't the Greeks call that arete, I believe, to, just maximize yourself?
Yeah.
So I said, what are the qualities of an excellent human being? Well, it took me a few months, but I eventually came up with 20.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time. I put them in a specific order for specific reasons because they build on each other and they describe what is a complete system. Anytime I encounter a problem in life, I take a look at the system and I say, how would I handle it? I would love nothing more than for every parent to have this chart on their wall. And as they're raising their children, every time they encounter a problem, say, let's go see what the system suggests.
Well, and you have that chart on your website. You also have that triangle, which I love. It for me, I love looking at the triangle, the chart. Wow, that's you're very left-brained, and that's a lot of material.
I know I'm very complete-brained.
Yes,
but it's not a lot of material.
Really,
see, that's one of the problems. When you just said that's a lot of material, and I'm not criticizing here,
no.
that is a limiting thought.
Uh-huh.
That limits us and makes us say, oh, it's too much. I don't want to mess with it. I don't like that. I think that's BS. It's comprehensive. That is a better way of saying it. Because, it's just like, when I describe to people what I do, they go, oh, I could never do that. Yes, you can. Or that's too much. No, it isn't. When we tell ourselves these things, we're limiting ourselves. I pay very close attention to my word choices and to other people's word choices. And I love nothing more than when somebody catches me on my own word choices. It's kind of funny that happens sometimes. They suggest to me a different way of looking at it. Because that's how we get better. But let me go through the system and show you why it's not too much.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Number one, awareness. Anybody who's been in a 12-step program, first step, admit you have a problem. Okay. Awareness. Who are you? What are you? I call it learning to tell it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not BSing yourself, telling yourself the truth. But there's a second component to it that gets left out often. Acting upon what you've figured out, acting upon what you've told yourself. See, that was where I was lacking in the past. February 1st, 2009, 17 years ago when I started, that was not the first time I told myself I had a problem. That was not the first time I told myself that I'm killing myself if I don't change my habits. But it was the first time that I started permanently acting upon what I told myself. See, in the past, my actions were always temporary. I need to lose weight. Okay, I'll go on a diet. Went on a diet. I lost 50 pounds. Okay, back to my old habits, put 60 on. You know, temporary changes are going to give you temporary results. Permanent changes are going to give you permanent results. You have to do permanent stuff. But as I told you, you don't have to do a thing. You get to. So awareness and acting on it. That's the first step. Life is a long-term game. Problem is we live in a short-term world. You know, Uber Eats, Amazon Prime, streaming video, instant delivery, Alexa, Siri, ChatGPT, Gemini. We get everything we want immediately. And there's nothing wrong with that, provided we also learn patience, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Patience. Things take time. Let me ask you. Ask any good Italian chef. Can you make good spaghetti sauce in 5 minutes?
And they'll
No.
say no.
No. It has to simmer on that stovetop for hours and hours and hours and hours. That's how you make it good. It takes time. Many things in life take time, and that is okay. Life is a long-term game. We're going to talk more about that as we get further in the system. Number 3, taking personal responsibility. You know, my weight loss journey, my battle with obesity started when my mother died when I was 8. That messed with my head. That was a trauma that I didn't deal with very well. And then I'm living with my massively obese father, and we ate ourselves into oblivion. It's not my mother's fault that she died when I was 8. It's not my father's fault that he didn't know any better. He only had a 5th grade education. He knew what he knew. He knew hard work. He knew to take care of his family. And he did those things very well. You know, that's all he knew. It's not his fault. And it wasn't my fault either. You know why? Because blame is irrelevant. Blame does not fix problems.
Well, and blaming someone takes away that sense of personal responsibility. You're
Yes, it
giving
does.
it to somebody else.
Yes. But it prevents you from getting something done. All that matters is figuring out what needs to be done and doing it. It's all that matters. And I wish someone would tell that to the world's politicians.
Amen.
Yes. So if you're listening, blame is irrelevant. Okay. Then focus. What are you focused on? If you're focused on the positive, there's a thing called the principle of expansion. What you focus on, you get more of in your life. If you focus on positives, you're going to get more positives. If you focus on negatives, you're going to get more negatives. Start focusing on the positives. Then there's perspective, which we already covered with the Peggy Chun story. You don't have to do anything. You get to do everything. Then there's vision. Dream bold dreams, big dreams. I mean, my dream is to change millions, if not billions of lives. You don't get any bigger than that. Am I going to get there? I don't know, but I'm going to work on it. And I'm going to do my best to make it happen. That's, vision. Then there's attraction, which you've heard of as the law of attraction. I prefer to call it the law of reciprocity. People think the law of attraction, you say, I want money, boom, money comes to you. It doesn't work that way. You have to give before you get. You want love, start giving love. You want wealth, start helping others become wealthy. You want happiness, start giving happiness to others. But as I said before, you don't have to give before you get. You get to give before you get. Giving is your privilege. When I see a homeless person, I don't have to help them. I get to help them. I am privileged to help them. I'm in a
Well,
position to help them.
and it's interesting you talk about that because, as I've talked to a number of people and we talk about the law of attraction, and I think you've hit on such an important point that who we are as we have become, and we naturally then do those positive things for people out of just the desire to do good, to love, to be kind. That creates an energy coming from us that then attracts magnetically that same type of energy back into our lives. And I think that's the key to the law of attraction that most people don't understand.
Yes, that's true. And also, if enough people, let me ask you a question. If enough people started giving to each other, wouldn't eventually someone wind up giving something to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it is. That's what it's about. And you also realize that homeless person I help may never do anything for me, may never give me anything, but someone else may give me something. Someone else may help me. It may not come back from the same place. It's a way of being.
Well, and
Um,
it reminds me, you've told your story. It reminds me of a young man that I met actually at a networking event. And he basically had been homeless. And somehow he got invited to this event and he was on drugs, he was homeless and so forth. And that whole group kind of took him under their wings. And I went and took some pictures for him and everybody kind of sat and helped him. And I look at it, and this is years ago, and I look at it today, he's happily married. He's totally successful in his life, has beautiful children. And it's fascinating to me to see how just being willing to help someone makes such a difference in their lives. And ultimately, that in and of itself is worth it.
yes, sure it is. It is. The world functions better when we help each other.
Yeah.
You know, plain and simple. That's the way it's meant to be. Okay. Number 9, using your time, energy, and resources wisely. How do you use your time, energy, and resources? Do you take your phone and do you scroll? Do you doom scroll and watch stuff for hours and hours and hours? Or I do the same thing, but I do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes, phone down, done, gone. 5 minutes more tomorrow. Um, kind of thing. And deciding how to allocate your time, energy, and resources. You have 86,400 seconds every day. Use them wisely. Hang around good people, do good things, work on good activities. You know, I tell people, if you will take 15 minutes a day and set it aside for yourself, over the course of a year, that's more than 90 hours. That's 2 work weeks. Now, if you will sit there and you will do an hour a day working on yourself, that's that's 2 weeks, not 2 months. Okay, it's 2 weeks. That translates into 8 weeks, of found time working on yourself. And surely, I don't care how busy you are, I don't care how many kids you have, taking care of sick parents or whatever, you can find, chances are you should be able to find 15 minutes a day.
Well, and you know what that does is, as you say, we're so much at the effect of our environment. We've got kids, we've got work, we've got all of those things going on. And yet we have time to scroll and hey, I'm totally guilty of that.
Yeah.
And and yet ultimately I think the key, which is I find fascinating, is to take the time to realize that what is it that I can do? How can I be creative? What is it that I can do? And as you say, for you, you're out there walking like crazy. And I think everyone can find something in their lives that they can change and start to do that makes it excellent.
Well, let me ask you this. If I spend 5 hours a day walking, you know what happens during that 5 hours?
I always
I meet
suspect you're meditating.
I meet some very interesting people.
Yeah.
And you know who the most interesting person I meet is? myself.
Yourself.
Yes, you do a lot of thinking,
Yeah.
and that actually reminds me of Peggy Chun, because the chapter I wrote on her on the book was called "What Would You Do If You Had Unlimited Time to Think?" Because that's what she had, unlimited time to
Yeah.
think. So then 10, taking consistent action. I used to say I wanted to lose weight and get in shape, and then I'd go to Chinese buffets, go home, sit on my butt and drink scotch. Is that going to get me in shape and lose weight? No.
Yeah.
But when I started changing my eating habits, stopped drinking scotch, stopped doing other forms of excessive behavior and started walking, guess what? I started getting in shape, and I eventually did. So taking action that's consistent with your goals. Then number 11, persistence. Never give up, never surrender. Get started, never stop. Keep going. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. You are a human being. You are going to mess up. Promise. You're going to have bad days. You're going to fall off the wagon. The question is, what are you going to do when that happens? Are you going to beat yourself upside the head and go back to your old habits? Or are you going to say, I screwed up. What can I learn from that? Pick yourself up and get started again.
Well, and you know what? Persistence, that to me, that becomes one of the key challenges. I mean, you talk about the fact that as you were overweight, you lost some weight, and then you went back to normal and, you gained 10 more pounds. I think for people to develop that ability to be persistent is not easy. And as you look at yourself, as you work with other people, have you found there are some elements or some keys to help someone to ultimately become persistent to move forward?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, and we're getting to those.
Okay.
Okay, so bear with me.
All right.
Okay. Number 12, integrity. Acting with integrity, making sure everything you do is aligned, and kindness, authenticity, sincerity, honesty, loyalty, all those traits. Those are all traits of an excellent human being. Act with integrity. Integrity is, what are you doing when no one's looking?
I love it.
I have many times where I could do things and I know I'd get away with it, but I don't do them anyway because I'm looking.
Yeah.
Other people will say God's watching. I choose to say I'm watching. That's good enough. Now, 13, respect. Respect for others and respect for yourself. I have some people right now, as a matter of fact, who I'm a little irritated with. I don't totally like the way they're treating me. I don't totally like the situation, but I continue to treat them with respect. And the reason why I do is because respect for others is not a measure of their character. It's a measure of mine. I treat them with respect because I am a person who respects people, respects things. And then there's also the way, do you respect yourself? I used to complain that I wasn't getting as much respect from others as I wanted, all while I was showing an outward manifestation. Walking around at 367 pounds, that on some level I didn't respect myself enough to take care of myself. Is it any wonder I didn't get the respect from others that I wanted? So, respecting yourself. Then there's win-win thinking. In order for me to win, it doesn't mean you have to lose. It's possible for all of us to win. Life is not a zero-sum game. We live in an abundant world. There is enough for everybody. There are ways to create solutions where everybody wins. 15, balance. I'm going to give you a definition of balance right here. Balance is identifying everything that's deficient and increasing it. It's identifying everything that's excessive and decreasing it. That's balance. That's how you find balance. Balance is not something you find. People say they want to find a balanced life. You're not going to find it. You have to intentionally create it. But as I said before, you don't have to do anything. You get to intentionally create it. I am very fortunate. I work for myself. I work from home. I've created an extremely balanced lifestyle for myself. I have the ability, I go out for long walks. I have my phone with me. I'm able to work while I'm doing that. I have a treadmill in the other room. I have a computer on it. I can sit there and walk at 2.25 miles an hour and type and work while I'm walking, and get a lot of things done. So that's balance. I've figured out ways to incorporate everything into my life. Then now we're getting to the crux of the matter, the things that we talked about, ways to make things easier.
Okay.
What I call the 4 factors. Starting with number 16, willingness. Okay. Unless and until you are willing to do what it takes permanently for the rest of your hopefully very long, hopefully very happy, hopefully very healthy life, you're not going to get to where you want to be. I used to think the 3 most important words in the English language were "I love you." I've changed my mind. The 3 most important words in the English language are you willing? If you're not willing to do what it permanently takes, everything I've said up until now doesn't mean a damn thing.
It's a waste. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get there. The moment you become willing to permanently, I emphasize permanently, do what it takes, that's when you become powerful. Which leads us to number 17, the second of the 4 factors, belief. I already mentioned that the experience of doing what I've done taught me that I'm more powerful than I ever imagined. And it led me to question what else I should be doing out there. Well, if I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. If you're listening, you are more powerful than you ever imagined. Believe it. Because once you start to believe in yourself, to believe in your abilities, your talents, and your ideas, that is when you become powerful. Believe you can or believe you can't. Either way, you're going to be right. What is that? The thing about the story about the little engine that could climbing up the hill. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Chug, 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 chug. Climbing up the hill. That's what it is. Belief. Believe in yourself. Then you get to 18. Discipline. And I mean self-discipline. I don't mean punishment. When I describe what I do to people, a lot of people think it sounds like punishment. See, whenever you tell yourself it's too hard, it's too much, that's punishment. When you tell yourself, this is my goal, I can do this is what I'm working toward, then it becomes a joy. And when something becomes joyful, it becomes easier. It goes from have to get to. And it becomes much easier. So when I say discipline, I mean identifying all your negative habits. Go to Chinese buffets every day, gone. Drink scotch every day, gone. Drink 2-liter bottles of soda pop every day, gone. Sit on my butt every day, gone. Then replace it with positive habits. Need to exercise more, start walking every day. Need to eat better, start bringing healthy food to work with me. Stop going to restaurants, all those things. Start changing what it is you're doing. Then you get down to the last 19, commitment. When you become 100% committed to doing something, it becomes easier, much easier. For example, I'm 100% committed that only healthy food is going to enter my mouth. I no longer, when someone presents unhealthy food in front of me, I no longer ask myself, should I eat this? Could I eat this? What'll happen if I eat this? I just say, I'm not going to eat that. Yeah. I had week before Christmas, somebody brought me gave me cupcakes and cookies. I took them. I didn't ask, am I going to eat this? I said, no, I'm not going to eat this. I gave them to a neighbor who's very skinny, who loves that kind of stuff. She was happy. I was happy. Everybody was happy. Walking every day. I no longer ask myself, do I feel like walking today? The answer is, I am a person who walks every day. I am 100% committed to walking every day. I walk every day. I get it done, no matter what. It makes it easier. Commitment. Then the last step, integration of mind, body, and spirit. Pulling it all together. Hey, here's a diagram for you. You see this little person in the middle, the man in the middle?
Yeah.
That's where you want to be. You want to be equal parts mind, body, and spirit. You want them all working together in harmony. That's because the mind feeds the body and spirit. The body feeds the mind and spirit, and the spirit feeds the mind and the body. They all work together. And when they're working together, you're in harmony. See, when I was way overweight, I was all mind. I'd sit at my desk all day. I'd work all day. It was all mind. I did very little with my body, except overfeed it. I did that part. But it was out of whack. And when I started devoting more attention to my body, started listening to my body, everything started to come into balance. And I even reached a point where I was paying so much attention to my body that my mind was out of whack with it. I didn't want to do my work. I didn't feel like it. I was more interested in my walking and what I was doing. Like, I don't feel like working today. And then, so I had to go backwards on that. And I started working on my mind again, bringing it all into balance. And that's the whole system in a nutshell. And I want to close with telling you what I recommend people do. People say, okay, I'm going to make this simple. I'm going to give you 4 steps that any able-bodied person should be able to do.
And you got 2 minutes.
That's all I need.
Okay.
Okay. Step 1, eat less processed food. Eat whole foods, nuts, grains, seeds, vegetables. I'm not saying never eat processed food, eat less. Okay. Quit eating 4 to 5 hours before you go to bed. And the reason why I say you do that is if you go 4 or 5 hours without eating, it gives you start a process called autophagy, where your body has time to cleanse itself. You combine that with the 6, 7, 8 hours you're sleeping, you've given your body 13, 14 hours to process everything you've done the day before and clean itself out. You're much healthier. Then walk at least 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes. And if you can't do 20, do 10. When I started out, I couldn't do 20. But do 10. Do what you can do, but do it every day. Then we already covered this one, set aside 15 minutes every day just for yourself. That's 4 steps. Eat less processed food, quit eating 4 or 5 hours before you go to bed, walk at least 20 minutes a day, set aside 15 minutes a day for yourself. If every able-bodied person would do that, we would be, our society as a whole would be vastly healthier.
Amen to that. So how do people find your book, Stan?
Okay. The way they find me, you go to my website. Here it is. I'm trying to find it. It's thewayofexcellence.com. Thewayofexcellence.com. On there, you start out, I've simplified my website. I made some revisions since the last time you saw it, Doctor. Start out, there are 20 videos. You can watch them. If you want to spend that 15 minutes a day wisely, watch one video a day. They're 8 to 12 minutes each. In less than a month, you'll learn the whole system. You'll go through it. You'll understand it. Then you can start with the books. They're all up there. They're available digitally for free. You can download them. I made them free because the mission I am on is more important than the money. It's not that I don't like money. I do. And if somebody wants to hire me privately to work with them, I'm more than happy to work with them privately, but you don't have to. You know, the stuff is there. You can get going. You can get the stuff done. So it's thewayofexcellence.com. And that's it. And if you want to contact me, there's a link at the bottom of every page. You can click it and write to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Perfect. Stan, thanks so much. And this is the
No, it's
reason.
not perfect. It's excellent.
Yes. And this is the reason I wanted you on the second time, because we missed this whole thing the first time. And what you've done here, in my mind, is just absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. And the fact that you're willing to give it to people, I think is so key. So anyway, thank you. And folks, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this one and look forward to having you join us again soon. So this is Dr. Doug saying namaste.
Thank you.